Good morning. This is Tio. We're live with the Arcane Bear today. We're just going to roll around. We're going to take a look at some of the charts. Most importantly, I want to answer some of your guys' questions, your thoughts. I'm going to take a look at a few of the extension possibilities, as well as some of the reversal possibilities. Again, I think this is always important that we are looking at both the down and upside potentials, as any smart investor should. Now, I would like to start off today by reading a Nassim Taleb quote, as I have been diving into the book Fooled by Randomness. It says, "My lesson is to start every meeting in my days by convincing everyone that we're basically a bunch of idiots who know nothing and are mistake prone, but happen to be endowed with the rare privilege of knowing that fact." So with that in mind, again, this is why I think it's always important to not just note the upside potentials, but the downside, and to really take into the account of what type of uncertainties might lie ahead in our futures. So there is a lot of strength coming into Bitcoin, the FOMO, as we would like to call it. I'm actually just going to double check to make sure everything is going live smoothly. If you guys can, give us those thumbs up, leave us some comments in the section down below. I am trying to go live through a few different platforms right now, so I'm still getting used to the process of actually being online through a bunch of groups of, I guess, what do you call it, social media platforms all at the same time. So I really appreciate all your guys' support and patience as we grow through, I guess, some of the growing pains of like being online at all. It's all relatively new to me. I didn't really know, I had no idea that we were going to be doing any type of live streaming. Anyways, okay. So here we go. I see you guys leaving some comments. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we've got Bitcoin open on the daily chart right now. What we're going to do is basically show some of the upside potentials. And I want to talk about one of the last Alastio Rotario videos. I don't know how to say his name. Jesus, it's such a difficult name. Fantastic YouTuber as well. I really like his analysis. He did a video the other day after doing 3 videos of the case for a bullish market in Bitcoin. He did one for the case for a bearish market in Bitcoin. Now the reason I wanted to highlight that is because we're working to bring on a guest named Bob Prechter, who is one of the well-known Elliott wave theorists in the ecosystem. And the reason why I think that's valuable is because the Elliott wave is actually very powerful. I'm going to actually clean up this screen here so it doesn't have so much data on it right now. We don't need it all here. Boom, 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 just like that. And then let's just open this screen. There we go. Okay, so the reason why I wrote 14,000 is because there's, okay, so I'm actually going to start off by showing you one of my good friend's charts too. He charted this the other day on Coinbase. It was basically the Elliott wave potential up to around 12,000 for the top of the 5th wave. I actually think we're near the top of the 5th wave now. I do not think that we're going to go to 14,000, but I want to put that in the story because there's, well, first off, I'm a bear by nature. The reason being is because I've been through a few market cycles and I know the importance to withstand winter and not getting caught up in bull markets, which is that inevitable black swan that comes into play every now and then will wreck you more than you've made potentially for years on end. So it's one of these important ideas to keep an eye on. So when we had originally started charting, let's go back to my screen here. When we had originally started charting this, when we dropped down from 6,000, we had very, very clearly, for any of you that did listen, we said, okay, that's great. Even on the road to 13 or down to 13 or 1,600, we thought that the B wave would go maybe up between 6,000 and 7,000 and then come back down. This is what I thought the ABC wave would look like. Now, I've been doing some more research on Bob Prechter, so if you guys are interested in Bob Prechter, we're going to try to get him on the show. I'm in chats with his secretary currently, but he was an American author, market analysis, known for his forecast using Elliott wave principles. He's written 14 books, co-authored, one of the best sellers in 2002. He's also on the board of CMT Association. So great analysis and great Elliott wave theory. And there's something that he points out. Well, first off, we're going to go over a few ideas in the Elliott wave theory here, I guess. Am I online still? Jesus Christ, the internet. Fucking internet. The only downside is that I've paid a new company to install new internet and they can't seem to keep it together. Oh my God, am I offline totally now? I hope I'm not offline totally. It appears that I've gone offline totally. Okay. Yeah, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I paid this company to install new internet. It worked perfectly for like the first 2 weeks, and then the last week it's been just garbage. They're like, oh yeah, we're working in the tower, and it's always a non-stop battle with internet in the jungle. So I do apologize. Hopefully the stream does come through clearly. They said we're going to be able to get fiber out here soon, and that should solve a lot of the problems. Again, living in the middle of the jungle has been somewhat frustrating for speeds. I actually have backup internets and everything, and it doesn't seem to make any difference. Like I can't get past that threshold. For fuck's sakes, again. Okay. Meme for a few. Shitty fucking internet. Oh my god. That's super distracting because I don't know how much is getting cut out, how much lags. I just see us drop off all the time. Jesus, Colubia. It's impossible to do this. Well, I can't tell if I'm coming through well or not, or if I'm just offline. Okay, you guys are saying I'm online. Thank you. Hopefully it's going somewhat smoothly. Now it says offline. You gotta be kidding me. This is probably one of the most frustrating things about living in the jungle, is the impossibility of actually creating something smooth. Oh yeah, I have to just go offline, I guess. I can't. I'm sorry guys. I just gotta stop. I can't. It's not gonna stay online. Okay, I'm gonna try this one more time. We're live, hopefully. I can't really tell. Again, the difficulty here is the internet stability in the jungle is just trash sometimes, and no matter what I seem to try to do to put the infrastructure in to fix it, it just doesn't seem to want to go that direction. Okay, so we are back. Hopefully this works out. Again, please keep me updated in the comments below. And I apologize for any of the breakouts. We will get this fixed. And we are just going to move out of the jungle here soon. Again, every time it seems like we have to leave the jungle every few months because it's just impossible to keep up with the business load. I come out here. This was originally supposed to be my retreat center. I built a farm out here for this particular reason. I got my private water and my well, my jacuzzi. I got all the fun things that you'd want in like a retreat center, except the internet is just total trash. It's enough to answer emails, and really that's all I should need out of my retreat center, but I do get caught up in the habit of trying to do work while I'm out here because I absolutely love this space, so I try to spend more time, and then this happens, and inevitably it's always really difficult to recover, right? YouTube is one of these places where they want content from you nonstop. Okay, so let me try to make sure everything's going smoothly still. And it appears to be somewhat capable of going smoothly. Okay, let's just run with it, and then hopefully it goes smooth like this. Chris Mikulski, yeah, nice, Chris, good to see you here. Lag, damn it. I just can't win the internet game. No matter what I do, can't win the internet game. This is year 5, and it's been the same. It's just atrocious. Kind of depressing, but anyways, let's try to roll through. Hopefully this works. If not, I'll just delete the stream at the end of the day because fuck. Thank you for bearing with me through all the frustrations of shoddy internet. It's very difficult to do. Everyone says lag, you're back. Oh no, lag again. God damn it. There's just no me winning at all. Okay. One last check on the live stream here. It says green, but it doesn't seem to be. Okay, so let's just try to hammer this out here really quickly. I do want to get it. Maybe I'll do a video from my phone if I can't get this one to come across smoothly because I think the information here is important. Okay. So let's start off with my the first thesis here. After listening to Bob Prechter and Alice Sasio's video, the important thing that I came across was that anything that looks unusual is likely a B wave. So in Alicia's video, as well as what Bob Prechter says, is the noticing of the Elliott wave features. He says anything that doesn't look healthy or normal is probably a B wave. And that's important for a few reasons, because we've seen the last market run up and we've been watching some of the, I guess what we'll call the irregularities in the growth of the market. You know, the internet's so slow I can't even load my charts. For fuck's sakes. So God damn it. Oh, it's really a test of faith to see how well you can deal with shitty internet. Okay. This is absurd. I can't even load my chart right now. Okay, we'll give us one more shot here. Refresh the screen. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I guess we're just gonna, maybe I should just do a pre-recorded video for you guys so that the content actually comes through and is useful, instead of having to listen for 10 minutes of me complaining about the useless jungle internet. Oh man, yeah, okay, so I can't even load my charts now. I'm actually really impressed with how well I'm taking this. I think like, you know, the direct urge is probably just to smash everything. And it's impossible to get this stuff to load right now. Super depressing. Okay, still not loading all that well. Okay, on the daily chart, let's scroll out to the daily and the weekly. The stream is going fine at least. Okay, that's good. I guess as long as I just keep shit talking, everything will look nice. So this is on the weekly is what we were looking at. So on the weekly, Alessio and had pointed something out that I thought was really interesting. And again, this isn't necessity that this happens, but on the log chart, he was showing that the 21-day moving average for Bitcoin, at least in the previous bull market, had every time it retraced come back to test the 21 moving average. Here, and then here. So all these important areas of what we would consider somewhat of a healthy bull market came to test this area multiple times. So the important part that Bob Prechter talks about in the Elliott wave theory is that anytime you see something that looks unusual or unhealthy, the fact that we haven't come back down to test the $6,000, he says is generally a B wave. Now, in Elliott wave theory, it's important to note that these are fractals. They go inside and outside one another. And I believe we're actually hitting the top of the fifth wave now, right at the 618. And the 618 is a very easy level of what we would consider, what I'll call it universal resistance. For those of you that are fans of this channel already, you'll know what I'm talking about. But this, I think, comes into mind where we hit the FOMO area of the human barrier at around 10,000, and we jump to 11,000 quite quickly. I think this is important. Well, it's not the 21 week, it's just the 21 moving average. Depending on what time chart you're on, it changes. So it's not the 21 week moving average. It actually is always variable depending on what time frame you're on. So it's not a 21 week moving average, it's just the 21 moving average. So for instance, if you go here, it's a simple moving average, the MA21, and again, that changes depending on what time frame we're on. So no, it's not a weekly 21 moving average, although we currently are on the week, which does show that chart. And that's where you would see it on logarithmic, because you have a much clearer picture of some of the extensions of the price itself. So what I'm trying to highlight here is the relationship between the Elliott wave theories, again, which is a fractal mathematics, it's not identical, and the Fibonacci charts that we're headed off to. So this is actually probably a fairly heavy level of resistance. Now, even though Tyler Jenks has gone bullish, I have not. I still think that we could see a big retracement down to 6,000 or maybe even down to 4,000. And the reason I don't take stuff like that off the table is because I've learned my lesson from taking uncertainty off the table. Anytime we remove uncertainty in the game, all we're doing is likely setting ourselves up for potential failure, because we're removing possibilities. And you don't want to ever remove possibilities from the table, because they're a part of the thesis of understanding where we are, and understanding where we are takes, I think, a fair amount of emotional conversation to realize, like I started this conversation off with, is that we're actually fairly not good at some of this stuff by nature. Like, the human physical body is very emotional and prone to make these mistakes. So the next bout of, there's 3 layers here, which I talked about in our last live stream. Here, Bob Prechter also says that we can actually see B waves come up as high as the recent all-time highs. So he's made the statement that a B wave could come, you could see a B wave like this. You could see a B wave come all the way down, or all the way above to the previous all-time high. And that's not something that I had taken into account before. I hadn't taken into account that you might see a B wave that goes all the way back to the top of the all-time high before coming down and retesting some of the areas that were there. So even though I think we're going to have to watch this game as it progresses, on the weekly chart here we see declining volume, which is a fairly not a bearish signal, but it leads us to believe that there's bearishness in the market. Right? And also these three levels, first off, the 618 and the 786 are huge areas of resistance. If we break above the 618 here, this area where we're at, the $12,000 mark, then we're likely going to come back down quite quickly. Now the next stage that we want to look at is the 786, which is around $14,500. This is why I made the title of this video, Bitcoin to 14,000. If we break through this area with any type of momentum, we're going to FOMO all the way up to 14,000, likely pretty quickly. But again, what's important here is that we keep an eye on all targets as we go. So if we roll into the hourly here and take a look at the area where we've been hitting resistance, there's a large amount of resistance around the $11,200 to $400 area. Again, these are kind of bands usually. And we're kind of stubbing up against that now. We've created this really nice pattern that we've seen multiple times already in this ecosystem, which was the ascending triangle. As soon as we broke out of that triangle, we did start to see upward momentum, but not as much as the last time. So there's the last triangle that we broke out of, and here's the triangle that we broke out of just previously when we were trying to go live to 10,000. We saw this triangle here. And look how much upward momentum came out very shortly after this triangle. We went all the way from 9,000 with hardly any stop at around the $9,000 area up to 11,000. So these ascending triangles have actually been quite strong in the Bitcoin's, I guess, indicators over the last 2 to 3 weeks. So now that we're going to, again, technical analysis is just keeping an eye on the markets all the time so you know that you're not risking the uncertainty of total black swan-like events, which could be the ones that wipe us out, or more importantly, the ones that give us a bit more confidence in the overall bull market. I still don't think that we've entered a bull market because as a bear, I want to see further confirmations. And the reason why that's important is because even as we go through these targets, if we are going into a bull market, if this is the bull market, then when Bitcoin does these things, we're essentially way back here around the $1,200 to $3,000 area in Bitcoin's price. So even if we go up to around this height, which is around the $14,000 to $21,000 area, the potential afterwards is exponential, right? So that if we do see a breakout past the all-time highs, and it's not a B-wave fake out on any of these levels, then even though we may have missed some of the extra bottoms here, the wave tops are another 200 to 300% potentially, upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 Bitcoin. And we've mentioned this multiple times before. The only downside is I think, okay. I want to make sure very clearly that through these shows, I actually show my fundamental analysis of Bitcoin, because I fundamentally believe that Bitcoin can go to tens of millions of dollars, right? So here we go. Here, this would put us a target at $10 million Bitcoin, way up here, right? This would be the logarithmic chart to see us all the way up to 10 million, right? That's a long ways away, yet I think there's a lot of reason why we could go that high, fundamentally speaking. Now, there's a big difference between fundamental and technical analysis for multiple reasons, is because for us to get that high, it might take a few years. There's going to be many ups and downs and to get to that spot. So the reason we use technical analysis is so that we can take advantage of our portfolio during these ups and down cycles, as well as we can keep the long-term fundamental outlook that, hey, I've said before, I think we could easily go to 100,000 easily, and then somewhere between $1 million to $10 million is not out of the radar for this particular game. And the reason why I think it's important to do that is because last time when we were looking at the minutia and we're like, yeah, Bitcoin could go to $1,500, people forget that I also have been saying for the whole time that Bitcoin could go to 10 million. So you need to kind of balance out, this is what risk adjustment is you need to balance out how much you're potentially willing to lose for how much potential there is to possibly make from this ecosystem. If you can do that, it gives you this very fine I guess measuring stick for seeing where you want to go and where you could go based off your risk, your personal life, what type of assets you can play with, what type of assets you don't want to like. I'm not that risky in my nature. I actually had the possibility to sell my house for Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $1,000, and it would have made my house worth like $7 million or something ridiculous. And I didn't take that because I actually like growing ayahuasca and I love growing pineapples more so than I want a bunch more money. And this is abstract for most people to understand, but when I was 20 years old, I had the privilege of having a partner who was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. We would fly around in we'd have $100,000 sports cars at every house we went to, and we'd be staying in $10 million homes in Hawaii and then downtown Lafayette. It was a beautiful experience for me, but what it really taught me is that money isn't one of the things that I'm actually trying to accumulate. Wealth itself is an experiential format. It has very little to do with how much money you have. It has a lot more to do with how you feel and how you live your life. And those are the things that have always driven me further to acquire wealth, not in a monetary standpoint, but really try to look at it from the esoteric level. Like, what type of esoteric wealth am I interested in accumulating, and work from there? Because it's so much more valuable to me to... Am I online even? Can't even tell if I'm online anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Am I just talking to myself? It's very possible Tio is just talking to himself for the last 10 minutes. I can't even tell. I really need to get this internet thing fixed or move somewhere where I have internet again, because it's just, it's so frustrating to not know that we're connected. Like, I've become reliant more and more so on the internet for my job every step of the way. I mean, every step of the way, my job has become reliant upon the internet. And if I don't have it, I may not be able to function at all. Okay, so acquiring the wealth that I'm interested in also means that I'm interested in personal development. It means that not getting FOMO'd or wrecked, like da-da-da-da-da, all these abstract ideas that the Lambo kids seem to bring in the conversation, those are ideas that I've stayed away from for a long time. I've stayed away from that because I know that if you're actually able to acquire wealth, it has very little to do with luck. It has to do with persistence and I guess your relationship with the work that it is that you're doing. So to go back into some of the more of the technical aspects, I'm going to take us off log, and I'm going to redraw this out one more time, and I'm going to speak this slowly because Annie's going to come over and we're going to work on some new music today. Okay, so with the Elliott wave and Fibonacci sequence here on the table, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the idea that we're very let's actually bring let's take this auto off. Okay, one sec here, guys. The internet is a little slow, making it difficult. Okay, I usually cut off the tops of the peak wave because they don't have a lot of interest to me. In the long-term bout of things, I like to stay a bit more recent. So we've stepped up right against the 0.618. This is a huge area of universal resistance. If we break above this and hold above this, we're definitely we're actually going to lead me into believing that we're actually in a bull market. I would require a breakout past 14,000 and past 22,000 for me to be like, okay, in a bull market. Because Elliott wave theory, you can see B waves as previous as the all-time highs. So Elliott B wave all-time highs. So let's see if we can find some quick examples for this from the. There's a few different types of Elliott wave extensions on the B wave here. So next time I'll make sure I have this all loaded up. It's always good to research this type of stuff, guys. I think it's important. So B waves generally catch the people in the wrong direction. It performs the task of enticing the suckers to jump in the market, and this is where the bull or bear traps tend to happen. As a general rule, B waves tend to show lower volume. So, okay, do we see lower volume? Well, compared to what? Compared to actually the previous drop here, we see lower volume than the previous drop that we had. So it's not out of the ballpark to think that this is a B wave, and especially if we compare it to the first wave up. You could consider that this whole wave down was a B wave. That's why the B wave may go as high as 14 to 21,000 before coming back down. And I think this would represent the ultimate bear trap. And it's one of those ideas that I think is almost important, because the more I read Nassim Taleb's literature, the more and more I start to look for the emotional conversations and the dialogue that make me think, okay, maybe we haven't found the bottom yet. And it's important to keep that conjecture in mind because as a well-rounded person who's been here in this ecosystem for a long time, I was able to make money before I ever bought Bitcoin. I was able to stay wealthy through the process of buying Bitcoin. And now that the crypto world showed up, there's even more in my portfolio. But the purpose of this, again, is personal well-being. You know, how are you feeling? What type of are you working on? What you're interested in doing for your life? You know, I don't think I'll ever retire because I love this work. I will be doing this for the rest of my life because I find solace in all of this, these interests. This is like an intellectual conversation for me with my emotional side. So the next thing I want to look at is actually one of our really good friends. So he did this nice chart here for what he considers the A, B, and C wave. Again, this is a really nice Elliott wave conjecture. So if we press play here, watch how well we followed the Elliott wave so far. We were a little early on this one. And actually, let's look at his previous count. Is this the previous count? Yeah, so this was his previous count that should bring us to around 11,800 in his mind. And we didn't go as quickly up to the top. There's one, he actually did a fractal version of it. I'm trying to find the fractal relationship. Here's the fractal one. Okay, so this was actually a fractal. No, this wasn't it either. There it is. Okay, I should have had, see, some of these I should have had on screen already. So here's the fractal one that he had drawn up with some of the previous wave movements. So here in the blue on this side, you see some of the previous wave movements from Bitcoin last year. And then when you press play, watch how, look how it followed this fractal. So this is why it's important to understand fractal mathematics and Elliott waves, because even though they're not identical, they give us a lot of room to learn how much these markets function to a particular direction. So I actually think we're at the top of the fifth wave. So $14,000 in my mind is not where we're going to go. I actually believe we're going to see a retest now of the $6,000 area and maybe even lower. It's always important to remember that when we go, it takes a lot longer to go up than it does to come down too. So if we measure from here to here on Bitcoin, it took us approximately 193 days to get to the top, and then to drop almost all of that, it took only 50 days. So it was a quarter of the amount of time to drop, right? So for instance, we could see a big drop in Bitcoin's price here that retraces a massive amount of the gains that we've already made in a very short period of time. We're talking 15 to 30 days versus the 60 to 80 that we've seen in the up cycle already. Now again, the reason why this type of stuff is important is because if you're not looking at all of the possibilities, you're going to miss something. Now, the possibility here that we're really interested in is these two waves. This is your 100-day, well, 100-week moving average and your 21-week moving average. Again, these are simple moving averages. So when you add them to TradingView, they just say MA. And as you scroll down the time frames, they adjust to what time frame you're in. So right now, these lines represent the 21-day moving average and the 100-day moving average. But when we're in the week, they now represent the 100-week moving average and the 21-week moving average. Anyways, that's important to just because everyone, I think, should understand how some of this stuff works and the fact that it changes. Now, one of the important parts here is to understand that market sentiments are based off human speculation, not so much underlying fundamentals. I think it's important to understand this because you look, again, I want to make this very clear. I think Bitcoin is going to 100,000 and then to $1 million. I've thought that since we broke out past $1,000 the last time. I only started to become more minutia because I started to get better at trading and I started to use all this technical analysis to get better at what I was doing, which is learning what's going on in the markets. And because of that, I stopped doing these zoom out periods. So I'm going to make sure I do this from now on in every show. I'm going to say to everyone, look, I think we're going to $1 million. Look how high up that is in comparison with where we are today. Any price point might be a good entry. I think dollar cost averaging is probably the best way for anyone to go. As a company, what we've decided to do, because Arcane Bear is its own, anyways, because Arcane Bear is its own entity, the company itself is starting to buy assets every week by itself. So it's not that me that owns it, it's the company that owns these assets, because I think it's important to dollar cost average in. And I think if you own companies, they should own assets. You know, Arcane Bear owns assets like the real estate, the brand name, and now we're just continuing to acquire more assets to the company's name, not to my name. Again, it's also important when you're building companies to realize that the company is a different entity than you. Like, because anyways, it's just a whole nother ball game to start to like integrate into your mentality. But what's important here is that regardless of the price movements, the reason for technical analysis is so that we can learn and grow. So let's say Bitcoin just keeps going up and up, and all the FOMO and Lambo kids are right, and we go all the way to $40,000 just right now. This is still a possibility. Now, the only reason why I like to remain bearish is because black swan events are the type of ideas that can wreck you, and more importantly, they can catch you off guard. So I still have buys down in these lower areas because I never took that off the table as a possibility. As a matter of fact, it's still on the table as a possibility. But what I don't think I did enough was tell everyone, look, I think we're going to at least $100,000 for Bitcoin, and maybe even $1 million. Look how high this is up from here. So for the average person, I think it's good to understand both the upside and downside emotional potentials, because it's a lot easier to not get caught up and being like, oh my God, we're going to the moon and we're going to crash and erupt. Because any good investor is the investor that can make it through the game on the long term. There are a lot of people in this market today that even if they make a bunch of money, they will likely not be here in a few years, because they're going to get wiped out by that inability to look at all of the potentials. And this is what I'm really, really keen on doing right now, is reiterating this fact over and over and over again, that if you're not looking at the downside potentials, you're a baby in this game. So the reason why I think it's important is because a lot of the other YouTubers, and I love most of these gentlemen, but it's most of their first time ever owning assets or ever having a business, right? I've owned my own property. I've owned stocks in the stock market for the last like decade. So this isn't new to me, and I've actually gone in and out of the markets a few times. I even did complex things like try to trade out of the money puts and options on the stock market in 2015, right before some of these drops. So I think the important part again here is to note the length of someone's ability to stay around in a market is actually hugely important. A lot of the people that end up getting money quickly lose it very quickly. So the importance of looking at all the upside and downside potentials is so that you don't lose, because inevitably something's going to beat you. Look, Lorenzo, bro, if you don't like being here, you're happy to leave. One second. Annie's here. You know, maybe, so Annie's here. Annie and I are going to work on some music today. So maybe what Annie and I will do is kind of leave you guys out with a song that we're working on. I think that's quite nice. But again, the point of this today is to really keep a close eye on these few areas. I will do a live, I'll try to do a longer video where I delete all the nonsense that happened with the broken internet. But basically, I think we're near the top of the fifth wave, somewhere between 11 and 12,000. Whether we get to the $14,000 range or not is up to conjecture at this point. And I think this is important for a few reasons. If you're not always paying attention to the up and down side, you're going to fail. Like anyone who's speaking, I see some people that are talking in the background that have very little understanding of how the markets work. And I just like to kick those people out. I would prefer quality over quantity. And we actually make a good point of trying to get rid of all the Moon and Lambo kids because they're just nonsense talk. Annie, how you doing? So I think what we'll do is we'll leave this video for today. I will try to come back with a more continuous conjecture line. Maybe, hey Annie, you want to go over the song while we're live here for fun?
Sure.
We can play it? Okay. So we'll leave everyone off with a little bit of live music because why the hell not? And then we'll go from there. Here, if you want to jump down with me. I think we're already in tune. I think I did everything to be in tune. Okay. Yeah, we are in tune. Nice. Okay, here we go. Full screen. There's a chair over there, or that chair. Either way.
I like the floor.
Oh, you look gorgeous today.
Thanks.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Okay, so we'll leave you guys off with some music, and then we'll go from there. Keep it simple. Nothing too spectacular, but a good way to warm up and practice today. Okay, so.
Only me, no one inside. This pain is a familiar friend. Holds my hand, guides me to the end. Where I meet you face to face, to keep the memories of your grace.
Nice. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a wonderful day. I hope we see you again. Maybe even this evening we'll try to do a live stream. And thank you.